Hey, gang, and welcome to yet another Seductive Poison the Resurgence triple threat review show. Um, I am going to be covering Cannibal Holocaust, Carrie, and Lucio Fulci's Cat in the Brain tonight. And I invited Chris to come on, but he may be busy. If he shows up, I will be glad to add him and he can talk about all or none of these movies with me if he wants to. Otherwise, I will go it alone tonight and just kind of give a quick synopsis and my review or my rating of the three films tonight. Just a reminder that tomorrow will be a double dose of me because I will be doing another Terror Time Tea. I finally did pick my movies for Terror Time Tea about 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. I will be covering Silent Madness and Skinner. So be sure to tune in for that. I will be discussing those movies and having a little tea. Not for sure if I will have any snack. I'm thinking about now. Again, I know this is not a traditional tea time treat, but I'm thinking of making my strawberry pie tonight. So I may have a slice of strawberry pie with my tea, just as something different tomorrow. I know this isn't high tea or anything like that, so just bear with me if that is what I end up doing. And then at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Candace and I will be doing another Friday Foolish. It's going to be a paranormal episode this week, folks. And the following Friday, Candace and I will be doing our first ever taste test show. And we're going to be picking, 3 or 4 items that we've never tried before from our local grocery store. And we're going to actually be trying them on camera. So if you are at all interested in that, be sure to tune in to next week's Friday Foolish and also tune in for this week's Friday Foolish because we're going to have a lot of creepy fun talking about the paranormal. Now, for those of you that were in here for the Apples and Oranges stream last night, Chris and I and Candace near the end all talked about a few paranormal experiences we had. I didn't talk about all of mine, and I know Candace didn't talk about all of hers because we both wanted to save some for tomorrow. So be sure to tune in to all of that tomorrow. Uh, you get Terror Time Tea at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time and Friday Foolish at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, so let's get started with these movies. The first one is Cannibal Holocaust. It's touted as the most controversial movie ever made. And just look at that cover. Hopefully that won't get me in trouble. Some of the boobage is covered there, but I won't show it too long. Just be on the safe side. But for a long time, there's another version of the cover. For a long time, I always thought Cannibal Ferox was the balls to the wall one. Um, but no, actually, Cannibal Holocaust for me is the one that goes further than any of these movies that I've seen. And by these movies, I mean cannibal films. Cannibal films were very popular in the mid to late 70s into the mid 80s. But by around 1985, when they had films like Amazonia, The cannibal film had started to fall off as far as popularity. I really feel like the heyday of the cannibal film was in the mid to late 70s. That was exactly when we had Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, and others of that type. But to me, Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox are both the most well known of the cannibal films and the ones most talked about by horror, exploitation, gore fans. Okay. So, Cannibal Holocaust does include real animal cruelty. Just a little word of warning there in case you've never seen it or maybe never seen any of these cannibal films. A lot of them do include real animal killing in them. I'm not a fan of that at all. You know, if you can fake human deaths, you can fake animal deaths. So to me, I've got on my soapbox plenty of times. That's the only thing I hold against these movies is the fact that they really kill animals on screen. And in some cases, like with Cannibal Ferox, they forced a giant snake that wasn't even hungry to eat this mongoose like creature. They literally had to force the snake to eat it, to start swallowing it. So this movie, Cannibal Holocaust, has the infamous turtle killing scene, which is very hard to watch. Turtles, to me, you know, all these animals are really just innocent victims of unnecessary killing and torture at the hands of these filmmakers. Um, and So I won't go into detail about the animal deaths, just to warn you that they are there. I believe there is a way to watch an animal cruelty free version, at least on Cannibal Holocaust, so that you won't see that. Now, I've seen the animal killing once, and that's all I need to see it. In fact, I probably didn't need to see it the first time around because it serves no purpose other than to upset people that are watching it. I don't believe the fact that it would make it more or believe what they said about it would make it more popular for Asian markets. Okay, so this is also, Cannibal Holocaust has also been described as either the first found footage film or one of the first found footage films, depending on who you ask. Because it concerns some filmmakers who go out into the jungles and are going to evidently try to prove or disprove the existence of cannibals. But we learn over time that these filmmakers are not good people at all. And you see that in detail throughout the film. They don't even treat each other with respect. There are several scenes of that. But where it really gets serious is when we see the filmmakers coming into these cannibal tribes, coming into where they live and setting their huts on fire, um, doing horrible, horrible things, including the picture I showed you on the front of the movie, or the front of the Blu-ray case. Um, and I have this on 4K, but I neglected to get that one out. This is actually my Blu-ray copy. Um, basically torturing these poor people until they drive them to revenge. These people would have, it is apparently very clear in this film that if the filmmakers hadn't done these awful things to these tribes, then they would not have retaliated the way they did. So we start out the movie with a professor who wants to find out what happened to the filmmakers because they are able to go out in the jungles. The professor and some guides are able to go out and um, they kind of infiltrate. Hey, Blissful, they kind of infiltrate the cannibal tribe, and they discovered that the filmmakers' film canisters are in the possession of the cannibals, and they are able to get these from the tribe. We see a lot of the tribe's rituals, including what happens to you if you commit adultery. It's very explicit. I ain't even gonna lie about it. Um, so then once the professor gets the film canisters, he goes back home and he and some of his colleagues who are very excited to see what the filmmakers actually filmed until they actually see it and see what happened. They see what the filmmakers did, that they, burned down the huts, they tortured and intimidated these people, they frightened these people, so much so, in fact, that they retaliated very violently against the filmmakers. And in the final scenes, you can see why this is considered by many to be either the first found footage film or one of the first found footage films out there, because you literally watch as the filmmakers are attacked by the cannibals. Um, and then you have the one shot at the end of their footage where you see one of the guys' faces on the ground and the camera, he's dropped the camera and it's just, recording. Heads are severed, they are violently attacked. Faye, the one woman in the group, has her clothes pulled off, and um, I'm not I can't recall if they show her being, raped or anything. Um, but I'm sure she is violated in some ways. I remember seeing them dragging her off and she was screaming and stuff like that. So, um, when the professor and his colleagues finish watching the footage, they're sickened. These people that said, "Oh, we just can't wait to see what the filmmakers did, what they filmed, what they uncovered about these tribes." And what they essentially saw was the reprehensible acts of the filmmakers first, and then the retaliation of the cannibal tribes on these filmmakers. So that, in a nutshell, is the film. Um, it's described also as the one that goes all the way, and it does indeed go all the way. Now, as far as cannibal films go, okay, um, and people are probably gonna, not like this because of the rating I give this. But as a cannibal film, and I can't give it a five deadites out of five because of the animal cruelty in it. Okay. But I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm knocking one of those deadites off because of the animal cruelty. And probably some people are thinking, well, Dana, you should knock more than just one off of there. However, I think that this film, Cannibal Holocaust, despite the animal cruelty, serves the purpose that it set out to do, and that was to shock, that was to cause controversy. I really believe that that's what they were going for. Let's see how far we can go to shock the viewer, the end viewer. Um, they did not need the animal cruelty. I'm going to stress that again. This film would have worked on the same level without the animal cruelty. I'm just going to put that out there again, um, just to make it known that I do not support animal cruelty, real animal cruelty in any form. Okay. Um, Listen, so if it bugs them, get the funk out. Yeah, and me and Bliss will know exactly what that means. Um, so based on cannibal films and how I in general feel about cannibal films, I do give this one 4 deadites out of 5. Now, if you're not a fan of cannibal films, then you probably would want to stay away from this one, because the animal cruelty is just going to be layered upon a film that you already dislike. Okay. So moving on to probably a more popular movie, a more familiar movie to horror fans all over the world, and that is Carrie. The book was written by Stephen King. The film was directed by Brian De Palma. There has since been a sequel, Rage, Carrie 2. There have been some remakes and all that. But to me, the original is the one that I really like to go back to quite often. And it tells the story of Carrie White, who is a shy, introverted girl who is put upon and abused essentially by her religiously fanatic mother. And Sissy Spacek plays Carrie White. Piper Laurie plays her mother, Margaret White. And I think that the combination of those two ladies in this film is what really put it over the top for me. I also love William Catt in the film. I met William Catt recently and even had him sign a picture from Carrie, where the character of Tommy, played by William Catt, and Carrie, played by Sissy Spacek, are dancing at the prom. I love the original too. Yeah, the Rage was okay. The Rage was not a bad little film at all. Um, it it was a decent sequel. Although I think it may have been too far after the original to be as effective as it could have been if they had done this, within a few years after the original Carrie was out. So, um, Carrie is picked on and bullied and all of those things. And then an incident happens where she gets her first menstrual cycle while she's in the shower. It's very traumatic for her. She thinks she's dying. Her religious fanatic mother has never told her the facts of life, basically. And so the girls make fun of her, including Sue Snell at first, played by Amy Irving. And they throw, sanitary napkins and tampons, and they tell Carrie to plug it up, and she's cowering on the floor because she just doesn't know what's happening to her. And her gym teacher, Miss Collins, ends up explaining to her what her mother really should have explained to her many, many moons ago. And so they send Carrie home, and when Carrie's mother comes home, she gets a phone call from the school that they tell her what happened. She calls Carrie downstairs, and the first thing Carrie says is, "Why didn't you tell me, Mama?" And the hurt in her voice, the betrayal that her mother has impressed upon her, because she did not tell her about the facts of life. She didn't say, "Hey, one day this is going to happen to you and it's a natural thing." That's what a normal mother would have done. But Margaret White is not a normal mother. So she hits Carrie on the head with one of her religious books that she has, and starts to read to her about the sins of woman, all that stuff. And then she drags Carrie into the closet and she says, "You pray and ask to be forgiven." Okay. So we see what kind of life Carrie has. And there's no solace at school either. And in the meantime, Sue feels very badly about what she did to Carrie, her part in all of that. And so she feels so bad, in fact, that she asked her boyfriend, Tommy Ross, to take Carrie to the prom. And Tommy does so because he loves Sue. And he is able to get Carrie to go. They go to prom. They have a wonderful time. And they have such a wonderful time that this is why my mom will no longer watch the end of this movie, when Carrie gets the pig's blood dropped on her after winning Queen of the Prom. Up on stage in front of everybody, she's humiliated by having a bucket of pig's blood dumped on her. And I neglected to say that Carrie has telekinesis, and she's able to move objects just with her mind. So Carrie loses it, and the telekinesis goes in full force. Several people were killed at the prom. She catches the school on fire, and there's this fantastic but also horrific scene, and I will never forget it as long as I live. Carrie, in her blood-stained prom dress, walking out of the front doors of the school and then having them close behind her, and you can still hear the screams of her fellow classmates inside the school as they are essentially being burned to death. So the main part of the story I just told you. And if you haven't seen Carrie, I would encourage you to do so. Find a for free version, of course, if you don't already own this. But I'm going to give this my top rating, of course, because I have always, always loved Carrie. I think Brian De Palma did a fantastic job with this. Now, Sissy Spacek wasn't his first choice to play Carrie. He didn't think that Sissy Spacek could pull that off. And Sissy Spacek got angry. And so she went home, greased up her hair with Vaseline, took all her makeup off, came back and said, basically, "How you like me now?" And she got that part. And I applaud Sissy Spacek for that. I applaud her for that. It doesn't matter that she was 27 years old playing a high school student. She pulled it off. She made me believe that she was Carrie White. And with every fabric of her being, she played that part to the hilt. And I could not imagine anybody else playing that part better than Sissy Spacek did. So, of course, I give it 5 deadites out of 5. And I know I'm going through these quite quickly, but like I say, when I don't have someone else on here with me, which is not always possible, I realize that, I do tend to go through things a little bit quicker. Um, so the last one of the night that I want to talk about is Lucio Fulci's Cat in the Brain. Now, I've had this movie on my movie shelf for years. I think I got it after me and Steve were married, but for whatever reason, I never sat down and watched it. I mean, it has a pretty cool cover for it, and um, it seems to be the type of movie that would be right up my alley. But I'm going to get to that in a second. So, um, this is touted as the most violent movie ever made, starring the godfather of gore, Lucio Fulci. So, acclaimed Italian horror maestro Lucio Fulci, director of Zombie and the Beyond, stars in this blood soaked epic as a director being driven insane by his own movies. Fulci is thrust into an ultra-violent nightmare of death and depravity where murder and madness consume his sanity in a vortex of violence. Cat in the Brain is a psychological masterpiece in the tradition of such cinematic classics as Psycho, Straitjacket, Eraserhead, and Fellini's 8.5. Now, I have to disagree with that. I'm sorry. I love Fulci. I love a lot of Fulci's movies. However, when watching this, I felt like they just strung together one gore scene after the other. And the gore was great if that's all you were looking for. But I was looking for more of a story. And, I know, a lot of Fulci's other stuff doesn't really have a story per se. But they all had a more of a story, House by the Cemetery, The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, or The Gates of Hell. Although, even The Devil's Hunting, they had somewhat of a story. But this just seemed like, let's do one gory scene. Let's wait 5 minutes. Let's do another gory scene. And as far as gore scenes go, they were fantastic, you know. Uh, but as far as a fully competent movie, no, no, was not. Um, there was also a lot of, sex and nudity and stuff like that in it, which I'm not, a prude. I can watch that stuff, but it really served no purpose in the film. None at all to me. Um, so yeah, I don't see myself going back and watching this anytime soon. It's not one of my favorite Fulci films, despite the great gory set pieces in it. Basically, to me, that's all it has going for it is the gory set pieces. So if you want to watch one gory set piece right after the other and call it a film, who am I to tell you no? Um, me, I wasn't as nearly as fond of it as other Fulci films that came before this one. So I'm going to give it 3 deadites out of 5. Um, and that is mainly for the gore because there really wasn't a story. There was a teensy bit of fabric that was woven throughout the gore scenes in an attempt to have a story. But to tell you the honest truth, folks, it just wasn't a very good story. And that's the thing about Fulci's work. I'm a huge fan of his work overall, but his later films, a lot of them, and this one was from 1990, and Fulci, I think, passed away in 96. So this was around 6 years before, 5 or 6 years before he died. And it could have been that he wasn't in good health, or wasn't really into making this, and maybe somebody else took over a lot of the directing stuff. I'm not really sure. But I mean, am I glad I watched it? Yeah, I'm glad I watched it because I usually try to watch everything Fulci does. Do I like everything Fulci has done? No, I do not. But that is with any director. There are a lot of directors that I respect, including Sam Raimi, who did my favorite horror film of all time, The Evil Dead, and Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. But there are films that Sam Raimi did, like Drag Me to Hell, that I absolutely cannot stand. But does that make me just dislike Sam Raimi overall? No, no, it does not. Um, but um, I mean, again, if you just want to see the gory set pieces, I wouldn't recommend you go out and buy the Blu-ray or anything. However, if you can find a for free version of it somewhere, then definitely, check it out. Just, don't do what I did, folks, and plunk down your hard-earned money on it. Because like I said, I don't see myself going back and watching this one again anytime soon. So, I know this was a quick one, folks. About 32 minutes into this. But I did enjoy it, and that was the important thing, that I enjoyed going over these movies and talking about them with you that are watching. Now, Blissful was the only one chatting, but we do have 7 people in here right now. It's just a shame I'm getting ready to get off of here. But I want to thank Blissful for being in the chat and keeping the chat active. Thank you, Blissful. Blissful says quick but good. And I also want to thank the people that were watching. I want to thank people in advance for those of you that didn't get to watch it while I was doing it live, but will watch it on the replay. Be sure to tune in if you can. I know Friday afternoons or Friday mornings too sometimes aren't feasible for people to come in on those because they're working, or they're taking care of their kids, or whatever. And I totally understand that. And you can always watch them on the replay if need be. But I'm off like a dirty shirt. And as always, I want to remind everyone to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. And be sure to tune in for Terror Time Tea tomorrow and Friday Foolish with me and Candace. We're going to be talking about the paranormal, folks. That's at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll see everybody next time.